Tonya Hofmann's fabulous. Tonya Hofmann's fabulous. Tonya Hofmann's fabulous, fabulous TV show. Tonya.
Welcome, everyone. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you're here today because we are going to have the most amazing show. I have the Miss Julialynne Walker here with us. Hey, Julia!
Hey there, Tonya.
Oh my gosh, we're going to have a blast today, and I'm glad that everyone is listening because you will want to rewind this over and over. You can see how old I am. I still call it rewinding.
You see?
So
for 2015, this is a new year, and we'll, overcome some of those bad habits.
Exactly. So we're going to have a blast today. Remember to stay to the end of the show because Ms. Julialynne is giving us an amazing offer that you will not want to miss. As usual, as all my guests give such amazing things away. So stick around to the end. Now, I always want to give you some great advice, great information, tips, techniques, all those kind of things. And for me, really for this year, I want you to do something that is outside your comfort zone.
That's right.
And I know that a lot of you are stuck in your comfort zone. I see it all the time. I'll go to a conference and everybody will look exactly the same. I'll go to a networking group. Everybody looks like whoever's leading looks like everybody in that event.
Right.
I'll go to a meeting and it's all white men, that are 60 years old. Or I'll go to a group and it's all fabulous African-American women that, have short curly hair or something. I mean, it's amazing to me how people start to metamorph into each other.
Right.
So I want you to reach out and go someplace that doesn't look like you. I have a blast doing that. A lot of times I'm the only white chick there, and I love it because I get to experience new ideas, new cultures. Diversity means the amazing opportunities that you will have to learn something new about people that you didn't know anything about. And I love going and speaking on stage in front of all kinds of people. I do a lot with the GNL community, the gay and lesbian community. And people are like, oh, but you're married to a guy. I'm like, yes, I know. It doesn't mean I can't relate to him. And, I do a lot with the African American Christian Women's Conference arena. I do a lot with the Hispanic arena. I do a lot with everybody because that's my forte, is to go out and challenge myself to be around people that don't look like me. And at first, I have to be honest, at first it's a little uncomfortable, but then you get used to it. And I'm so comfortable that, I'll walk in and I know there's always going to be that 20% that automatically don't like that you're there because you don't look like them. I went to a group of very sophisticated ladies the other day and I'm not that sophisticated. So, sometimes, you'll get that 20% that just doesn't like you because you're not a match to who they are, because it makes them uncomfortable. Okay, it's nothing about you, it's about them. So focus on the 20% that is like, oh, look, somebody new, right? Focus on people that love diversity and who are looking for you, right? So that's one of the reasons I brought Julialynne in, is she is an expert in all things unique.
Thank you.
And I love being around people like her because you get so many different viewpoints. And to me, that's what it's all about. So tell me, Julialynne, tell me a little bit about your story, about who you are and how you changed your world.
Well, first, I am the owner of Crossing Culture Travel and Tours, which is a full-service online travel agency. But within that, I focus specifically on travel within the African diaspora. And so very often people ask me, the African diaspora, what's that? And I say, well, it's wherever people of African descent live, anywhere in the world, their experiences, institutions, and general culture. And so while we do tours to Africa, we also do tours to Brazil, and we do tours to Miami or San Francisco. And in each place, we help you to learn the history, the culture, and the experiences of African Americans or people of African descent. Because that's one of the things we find out is that there's really a multiplicity of experiences within the diaspora. But when you ask me, how did I get interested? And people, ask me all the time, well, how did you get, involved in this area? Or why do you care about this so much? And I have to share that I was very fortunate in really, going through my undergraduate experience through the 60s. And I had the opportunity to do my junior year study abroad at the University of Ghana at the flagship institution in Accra. And so that really was a formative experience in terms of, one, placing me within Africa, and then within Ghana, being exposed to that incredibly rich history, and then also being exposed to people from throughout the continent who had come there to study. And so since then, I've gone back and forth for work. I've lived there, I've toured, I've done short-term assignments, I've gone as a tourist, and I've just, had a fantastic time within the continent. But also, I have been very fortunate in having travel experiences within the Caribbean, South America, Europe, and Asia. And so there's a lot in the world I still want to see. My bucket list is still fairly long, but I'm very fortunate in also having had so many very rich experiences, in 5 different continents around the world. So let me just stop there for a moment.
So where's your favorite place? Every time I meet someone who does a lot of travel, I'm like, where's your favorite place you've ever been?
Well, people always say your first one is your first love. And so I do have to say, Ghana still remains my first love because it really, there's so many friendships that I was able to formulate then. I still maintain the experiences. I go back and just hang out. I go back for conferences, and it's just comfortable. You know how you have a place that's just home to you. So Ghana still remains a very important love to me. But also, I've had some very unique experiences, for instance, in a place like Cuba, where, you don't expect, or I didn't expect to find the richness of the African experience as much as exists there. And so Cuba has just, really opened the doors to me to how, the cultural survivals have been able to maintain within, a Spanish context in a very rich, very unique way. And so, I've had these kinds of experiences as well that I hold very dear to me.
Nice. So what's the place you were like, I never need to go back there?
I never need to go back there. I really can't say offhand if there's any place I would not go back to.
Nice.
I really, I can't. And it's very interesting because that takes me to our slogan, which is let's cross cultures, let's create conversations, and celebrate communities. And so when you said people have to think outside the box, and I hope that people really begin to think outside the box in terms of their travel experiences, so that even when you go for a conference, very often now we're tied into the airline schedules and we've got a half day or something because it's cheaper and, we've got to do that. And that's fine. But I say, talk to me. Let me help you explore how you can use that half day beneficially or a few hours to really find out about something that you didn't know about, And then within that, if you have a longer amount of time or even in a short period of time, whenever you interact with people, what is a question you can come up with beforehand? What do you want to know? What can you learn from this experience? What do you think might be different, from visiting this museum that's different from someone else or another place? And then, initiate that conversation. You take this, so many often people say, well, the tour guide, and I say, well, did you ask? Did you question? So sometimes people think they want to be, fed information, and I say, well, we have the responsibility as well to be a bit more responsible and a bit more assertive in saying, what is it that we want to learn and how does that fit into, what we're about? And that can be in any area. But also, I encourage people to celebrate their communities. And this brings me back to the question you asked about, where wouldn't I go back to? And I have found that no matter what country I've been in, and I've had some, very interesting, if not, very hairy experiences. But I have found that regardless of the situation, there's always something that brought me joy. And if I look back at that and then I think about, what is it that I appreciated, or how someone showed me kindness, or how I enjoyed a particular dish that I love to eat, and there's very little food that I say no to. So I find that if I focus on those things that really help me to celebrate that culture, then I come away with a much more positive feeling overall. And whatever happened that was negative, I just say, well, that's par for the course. It would have happened in New York if I'd been in New York, or it would have happened in San Francisco. So I don't hold it against an entire country or an entire group of people. And I think that so often, sometimes when we travel, we come back and people say, well, how was it? And the first thing we do, complain, the food wasn't any good, or the flight was late, or I lost my luggage. Well, yes, those things happen. But if we focus on celebrating communities, then I encourage you to think about 2 or 3 positive things that happen and share them first. Because
Yes.
the people you're talking to, they haven't been to Ghana, they haven't been to Belize, they haven't traveled to Turkey yet. And so they're going to take away the first story you told them, because that's the one that made the strongest impression on you, and that's what will make the strongest impression on them. So be positive. Celebrate the community and come up with something that you really enjoy, no matter how many other negative things happen.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me how people want to, really focus always on the negative. And to me, there's so much more positive that happens, and people wonder why they can't move forward and don't have that connection factor. And if you're always focusing on the negative, people don't want to hear it. They want to hear positive, they want to hear excitement, in your voice instead of gloom and doom.
Well, but it's also like people say with retailing, if one person complains, 10 people repeat it. But, so you really want to focus on the positive, because you don't want to have people walk away with a negative idea about a country that they could have enjoyed.
Right.
Because what happened to you may never happen to them. So why come up
Yeah.
with a negative? Focus on the positive and share that.
Oh yeah, and even when you go to a conference or something, it's amazing to me how many people focus on the dry chicken that they had versus the amazing experience of the speakers and the people they got to meet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly what happens. And so, one of the things that we really try to focus on is say, whatever experience you're having, whoever you are and wherever you're living in the world, we can add something to it that helps to enrich your understanding of the African diaspora worldwide. And
No.
so sometimes that becomes even a challenge for me, because I said, well, I'm really not, for instance, I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, I was in China. I was able to visit Beijing, Shanghai, and Nanking. And so, I really had to make an effort to be able to understand the dynamics in terms of the African diaspora within China. And it's there, but it was much more difficult to get to than it had been, say, in other countries where I've done prep work for tours that were upcoming.
Right, right. And I look at when I go someplace is how can I connect with people? And that's really, to me, that's why you go someplace. It's amazing to me how many people go and they lay on a beach and then that's all they do. To me,
Yes.
it's about the people I get to meet and have a conversation with.
Well, let me now move to something else that I do, because one of the things that I focus on actually as a business aspect is LinkedIn. And I do have services for small businesses around LinkedIn, but it can also be utilized by individuals. And I have found in discussion with people that they see LinkedIn as a mechanism for career building and making contacts when you're finding a job. And I really encourage people to say, no, well, yes, you can do that. But also, when you're going to a new place, do you actually go through your LinkedIn contacts to find who may be part of this conference, or who may be resident in this city, or who may be able to join you, for a brief period of time to discuss something? And so I really encourage people to use their LinkedIn contacts more proactively, really for around shared interests. And it's very interesting when I find that people, find this an amazing idea. And I don't think it's amazing at all. I think it's a fairly normal idea. But people say, well, I hadn't thought about that. I just thought, if I was looking for a job or if people contact me, then I'm supposed to give a reference. And I said, well, you can do that. But when you really want to build solid relationships and people then can refer you for a position, they do it when they know who you are. And
Yeah.
so you can build an understanding of who you are in a number of different ways, through a proactive use of LinkedIn, one of which is to identify people in the city you're going to, contact them ahead of time, and see if you can get together around a specific agenda. Again, you're not wasting people's time. Don't just hang out, but around a specific agenda.
Yes, I do that all the time like I'm going to a conference in Miami. So I just start, first of all, looking at the other speakers, introducing myself to each one of them. Most conferences even have like the vendors and sponsors on there. I reach out to them, say hello. Hey, I'm going to be in town, and I always come the day early. So we usually either have that evening open or a breakfast, depending on what time the conference starts. And so just create your own little meeting group, and say, hey,
That's
I'm going
right.
to be hanging out at the bar. I'm going to be hanging out at the Starbucks in the hotel or something, and have a meeting place for everyone to congregate.
Right.
So
That's
yeah.
exactly it. But and then one of the things I also do is have I have a closed group on LinkedIn where we focus specifically on issues around intercultural communication and being able to, build links in this area. And so this closed group, and it's also called Crossing Cultures, really is specifically for, museum people, people who are in the tourism industry. Part of what we do is also we focus on ecotourism. So we look around issues of sustainable development and what are the contradictions between sustainability within the tourism arena, and cultural needs within the tourism arena. And so my closed group, called Crossing Cultures, is very specific in terms of ensuring that there's a context, an arena in which people can discuss these ideas that is quite different from the work that I do with people around LinkedIn, which is business focused, or work that I do with people around the travel, which may be for business or for leisure.
I love that. Do you do a lot with helping people kind of see beyond, because some people do get very closed-minded. So do you help them kind of see beyond and reach out so that they are looking for differences, more than just similarities? Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. And in fact, a lot of my professional work before this was in the area of intercultural communication or cross-cultural communication and diversity and inclusion. And so I bring a number of those techniques into the arena when I do speaking engagements or workshops. And so I'll use the travel component as an entree, but then I bring in the techniques to get people to understand how they may be limiting themselves in a business environment by, as you start off the discussion, staying in the box. So
Right.
how do we get people to think outside the box? How do we get people to move culturally outside the box? And how do we get people to develop strategies to continue to stay outside of the box? Because so very often, we have the flip-flop. You go to a workshop, people say, oh, that was fantastic. You come back, you do it, it's like a New Year's resolution. And a month, 2 months later, it's fallen by the wayside because there was no strategy for continuation. And I think that that's a very important part of the process when we're dealing with institutions or businesses.
And the HR departments probably love you.
I hope so. I know that I enjoy, really listening to understand what their needs are so that we can then provide the appropriate service and discussion.
I love it. People are always asking me, with the Public Speakers Association, how did you have such a diverse group of people? And I think it's just your focus, it's your strategy, right? You have to have the strategy that you are wanting to reach out and that you do
Absolutely.
want people to be involved in, your business that, have that diverse background.
And as you said earlier, you are very fluid in the various kinds of groups that you work with. And I know that's true for me as well. because and I say I can work with anybody, anywhere, because of the bottom line, everyone has communication needs.
Right.
And everybody needs to understand what is it that they do well and what is it that they could do better. And so I come in as a facilitator, in a workshop context to be able to, help them to understand that. As a speaker, I will speak, provide some very broad guidelines to assist in the process, but it's really in a workshop situation where people can begin to understand what is it that they can do on a long-term basis to be able to ensure that these techniques are sustainable.
Love it. And Julialynne is a member of the Public Speakers Association, and I highly recommend her as a speaker at your next event. So Julialynne, can you give us, I know you're giving away something amazing as an offer. What is that today?
Well, two things. One, it will be, there are two consultations, and both of them will be, as a result of this conversation with you, will be for free. One will be a travel consultation, so a discussion around African diaspora or ecotourism, anywhere in the world that you would like to go, and we can talk about a selection of places as well as activities. That's one. The second is a consultation around how to better use LinkedIn to grow your business.
Ooh, nice.
And so again, these will be 30-minute consultations so that I can assist you, and then we can talk about how we can do more business.
Perfect. And how do they get?
And so now I have a Facebook page, Crossing Culture Travel and Tours. So you can like the page to find out information on an ongoing basis about the kinds of trips that we offer, as well as information in general. And then you can inbox me messages, but also the contact information is there. Or you can send me an email. And the email would go to Crossing Cultures TT. That's all one word. Crossing Cultures TT @gmail.com. So then you can email me there.
Yay! Well, thank you for being on today. Well, it has such a pleasure. I want you to definitely come on again. This is something that I think would be a great, especially the LinkedIn, because people are always asking me about that,
Yes, absolutely.
Well, perfect.
Well, I've enjoyed it. I thank you very much for inviting me. And this is a great way, a very fabulous way to start out 2015.
Yay! So thank you for being on. Everyone, make sure you take advantage of Julialynne's offer. Oh my gosh. I mean, take advantage of both of them. My goodness. She's amazing. It's definitely, obviously, someone you want to connect with beyond just this show. You don't just watch people, connect and really actually have conversations with them.
Absolutely.
Make sure that you go to the website, publicspeakersassociation.com, if you haven't been there or yet. And also make sure you join us for our 2015 conference. It's the Public Speakers Conference. You can find out more about it in San Antonio, Texas, June 14th through the 17th at publicspeakersconference.com. So we hope to see you there. Thank you, Julialynne. We'll see you again.
Thank you, Tonya.
And everyone,
right, bye-bye.
Fabulous rest of your day.
Absolutely.
See you next time.